So, you did it. You worked hard, you were disciplined, and you saved your first 1 lakh rupees. That is a massive achievement, seriously. But now comes the really big question. What on earth is the smartest thing to do with it? In this explainer, we're going to break down a simple, safe, and really effective plan to get you started on the right foot.
You know, saving that first lakh is a huge milestone, but it also opens up this whole new world of confusion. And it feels like a big decision because, well, it is. How you handle this first step really sets the stage for your entire financial future.
So you're there. You're looking at your bank account, and that number is probably bigger than it's ever been. And you're asking yourself that exact question. Okay, now what? It's super exciting, but let's be honest, it's also a little intimidating.
And suddenly, everyone has an opinion, right? Your uncle is telling you, just put it in a fixed deposit, it's safe. Your friend is totally convinced that crypto is the only way to go. And then your colleague keeps going on and on about mutual funds. It's just an overload of conflicting advice.
Okay, so let's just pause and reframe this whole thing. The single most important thing to understand right now is this. Your first lakh is not about getting rich quick. It's not a lottery ticket. Think of it as your confidence capital. It's about building the confidence and the habits to invest for the rest of your life. A bad experience now could scare you away for years. We don't want that.
And that is exactly why we don't start with investing. Nope, we start with protection. Before even 1 single rupee goes into the market, we have to build a rock-solid foundation. This part is absolutely non-negotiable.
And that foundation has 2 really simple but totally crucial steps. First, you have got to build an emergency fund. Second, you must pay off any high-interest debt you might have. Let's break down exactly why. An emergency fund is basically your personal safety net. If something unexpected happens, you lose your job, you have a medical issue, this is the money that saves you. We're talking enough to cover 3 to 6 months of your essential expenses. So if your rent, food, and bills come to, say, 20,000 rupees a month, you need at least 60,000 to 1,20,000 set aside where you can get it fast. This is what protects your investments from being sold in a panic.
Now, the math on this slide tells a really powerful story. Your credit card might be charging you 35% interest a year, which is just insane. Meanwhile, a good, solid investment might earn you about 8%. You see the problem? By paying off that debt, you are essentially getting a guaranteed 35% return on your money. No investment on this planet can safely promise you that. So before you even think about investing, eliminate that high-interest debt.
Okay, with that foundation secure, now we can finally talk about investing. Let's build a simple, clear, and diversified plan for your very first move.
Here it is, a really straightforward, beginner-friendly way to split that 1 lakh. As the saying goes, we do not want to put all our eggs in one basket. So we'll put 40% into a simple index fund. 20% goes into a flexi-cap fund, which gives a professional manager a little more freedom. Another 20% stays safe and easy to access in a liquid fund or an FD. And that final 20%? That's what we're going to call your learning capital. Let's break down what these actually mean.
Let's start with that biggest slice of the pie, the index fund. This is perfect for beginners. Why? Because instead of trying to be a genius and pick the one winning company, you're just buying a tiny piece of all the top companies in the market, like the Nifty 50. It's instantly diversified, it's super low cost, and honestly, it's just a lot less stressful. The FlexiCap fund we mentioned is similar, but it gives a fund manager the freedom to hunt for opportunities in companies of all different sizes.
So what about that learning capital? This is so important. This is your small, controlled budget to try things out. Maybe you want to buy a few shares of a company you really believe in. Great. The goal here is not to strike it rich. It's to learn how the market feels with some real but limited skin in the game. Think of it as your tuition fee for the school of investing. It's all about education, not gambling.
Now, with any good plan, it's just as important to know what not to do. So let's talk about the common traps that so many beginners fall into and get real about the reality of risk versus reward.
Wow, this slide really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Just look at these numbers. If you had invested 1 lakh rupees in 2010, 10 years later, in a savings account, you'd have barely more than you started with. With mutual funds, you'd have tripled it to over 3 lakh, which is great. But with Bitcoin, you'd have 9 crores. I mean, that is just a staggering, life-changing number. But before you get mesmerized by that 9 crore figure, you have to burn this principle into your brain. Higher returns always come with higher risk. For every single Bitcoin success story, there are thousands and thousands of people who lost everything chasing that kind of high. You have to understand and respect that trade-off. It's the #1 rule.
And that leads us right to these other classic traps. Please avoid hot tips from friends who don't have a solid plan. Run, don't walk, from anything that guarantees a return. Stay far, far away from those highly speculative penny stocks. And never, ever put all your money into a single thing. Diversification is your absolute best friend.
So, if it's not about finding the next Bitcoin, what's the real goal here? Let's talk about the actual path to building real, long-term wealth.
Wealth is not an event, it's a process, and it happens in this specific order. First, you use your initial investment to build the habit of investing regularly. Then, that habit builds your confidence as you start to see it work. And only then, over time, does that powerful combination of habit and confidence lead to real, sustainable wealth.
So let's end with this. Your first Lakh isn't about getting rich overnight. It's about something way more valuable. It's buying your ticket to get on the right path. It's your start. So the only question left is, are you ready to begin?